The planet was quiet, too quiet for a place that once held life. A human traveler named Daniel walked slowly through the dust, his boots sinking into the soft ground. The wind carried no sound, no birds, no animals, only silence. He had come here looking for rare minerals, but what he found was something far stranger. He reached what looked like the ruins of a village. The houses were broken, the walls burned black, doors hanging loose. He touched a wall and felt the heat still trapped inside the stone. It was not an old ruin, it was recent. Something terrible had happened here not long ago. Daniel felt his heart beating faster. He was not alone, he could feel it. Shadows moved near the edge of the broken homes. Quick and small, like children hiding. Daniel stopped walking. His hand moved to the small blaster on his belt. He did not draw it, but he was ready. Then a voice called out, soft, shaky, not human. Please. Help us, it said. From behind a half-broken wall, 3 small figures appeared, their skin pale blue, their eyes large and glowing faintly, their hair like silver strands under the fading sun. They were girls, small alien girls, their clothes torn, their faces covered with dirt and fear. They looked weak, but their eyes held something stronger. Desperation. Daniel froze. He had seen many alien species in his travels, but these children looked so fragile, so lost. He lowered his hand from the blaster. Slowly, not wanting to scare them. Who are you? He asked. What happened here? The girls looked at each other. None of them answered right away. One of them, the smallest, stepped forward, her hands shaking. They came, she whispered. They took everyone, our families, our people. Only we escaped. Her voice broke as she spoke, tears sliding down her cheeks. The other 2 held her arms, comforting her. But they too looked ready to cry. Daniel felt a knot in his chest, whoever these they were. They had destroyed this place without mercy. He wanted to know more, but before he could ask, one of the other girls lifted her head, her eyes wide. We cannot stay here, she said quickly. They will come back. They always come back at night. The air seemed colder suddenly. Daniel looked around. The sky above was darkening, the red sun slipping behind the mountains, the shadows growing long. He felt something heavy in the air, like the whole planet was holding its breath. He looked back at the girls, their faces pale, their small hands clutching each other tightly. He asked, Who are they? But the girls only shook their heads. If we tell you, they will hear. They always hear, one whispered. Daniel did not understand, but he knew one thing. These children were terrified, and it was not the kind of fear that comes from imagination. It was real. The human looked at the ruins again. Black marks on the walls, strange claw-shaped burns on the ground, holes melted through metal doors. This was not the work of wild animals. This was technology. Weapons, maybe machines. The girls moved closer to him, their small eyes pleading. Please do not leave us, you are strong. You can help us, the smallest one begged. Daniel felt their tiny hands pull at his arm, so light, so fragile. They reminded him of his little sister long ago, back on Earth, when she would beg him not to leave her alone in the dark. He sighed, running a hand through his dusty hair. He had not planned for this, he only wanted minerals. He did not want to get involved in local wars, but he could not ignore them. Not when they looked at him like that. I will help, Daniel finally said, his voice firm. But you must trust me. Tell me everything. The girls nodded quickly, but their eyes still showed fear. They glanced at the mountains, as if something was watching from there. Something waiting. The wind blew harder now, carrying a sound, a low metallic hum so faint it almost blended with the silence. But Daniel heard it, the girls heard it too. Their faces turned pale, they clutched his arms tighter. It is too late, one whispered. They are coming. Daniel looked to the horizon, the last rays of the sun vanished. Night fell like a heavy curtain, and from the mountains, red lights blinked in the darkness. Moving slowly, one by one, growing in number, the human felt his chest tighten, his instincts screaming that this was not just danger, this was death approaching. The alien girls pressed against him, trembling, their glowing eyes wide with terror. And in that moment Daniel knew, whatever was coming for them was powerful. Relentless, and it had already found them. The silence of the planet was broken at last, replaced by the mechanical echo of something unnatural, something hunting, and the human understood. His journey had just changed forever. The night grew darker. The red lights from the mountains grew brighter. Daniel did not know what kind of machines or creatures were out there, but he knew the alien girls were too weak to survive alone. He needed to move them somewhere safe. Follow me, he whispered. Keeping his voice low, the girls nodded, their glowing eyes filled with trust and fear. They moved quietly through the ruins, their small feet almost making no sound on the broken ground. Daniel stayed in front, his blaster ready, his ears listening to every small sound in the dark. They reached a broken temple at the edge of the village. Its roof cracked, but its walls still strong. Inside it was quiet. The air smelled of dust and old stone. Daniel led them in, pushing a heavy stone door behind them to block the entrance. It was not perfect, but it would give them some cover. The girls huddled together in the corner, their small hands holding each other. Daniel lit a small lamp from his pack. The soft yellow light touched their faces. He saw the dirt, the bruises, the tears. They were not soldiers, not fighters, just children, caught in something far too big. Finally he spoke, his voice steady but low. "Tell me everything. Who is hunting you? What are those machines? Why are they here?" His eyes moved from one girl to another. He wanted answers. He needed to know what he was facing. The oldest girl looked down, her silver hair falling over her face. "They are not animals," she whispered. "They are the old guardians. The ones our people built long ago. They were made to protect us. But something changed. They turned against us. Now they destroy everything they find." Daniel frowned. Machines turning on their makers. It was not the first time he had heard of such stories. But these drones, these guardians, they looked more dangerous than anything he had ever seen. "Why do they want you?" he asked. "Why chase children?" The girl shook her head. "It is not us, it is you," she said softly. "When they saw you, they followed. They fear you." Her words were strange. Daniel leaned closer. "Fear me, why?" he asked. The second girl, smaller, spoke in a trembling voice. "Our elders said the guardians remember humans. They fought humans long ago. They lost. They never forgot. When they see you, they will not stop. They think you are the enemy from that old war." Daniel felt a cold wave run through him. So these machines had memories of battles long before his time. Somehow the sight of a single human triggered their rage. He had not asked for this, yet now he was the reason they hunted. The smallest girl pulled at his arm, her eyes wide with tears. "Please do not leave us. You are strong, you can fight them. We cannot. If you go, we will die." Her voice broke. Daniel looked down at her tiny hands clutching him. He remembered his sister again, the same desperate grip when she begged him to protect her from storms back home. He sat down on the cold floor, running a hand across his face. He wanted to refuse. He wanted to leave. This was not his war, not his fight, but deep inside, he knew he could not walk away. Not with those eyes looking at him like he was their only hope. "I will help you," he said at last, his voice calm. The girls' faces lit with relief, but he raised a finger. "But you must do as I say, no lies, no hiding. If we are to survive, I need the truth always." The girls nodded quickly, tears still on their cheeks, but a small spark of hope glowing in their eyes. Suddenly a sound echoed outside the temple. Metallic, heavy, the stone door shivered. Daniel froze. He motioned for the girls to stay quiet. The sound grew louder. Steps in the night, machines searching. Daniel killed the lamp. Darkness filled the temple. Only the faint glow of the girls' eyes remained. The sound outside moved slowly, scanning, searching. The red light passed across the cracks in the wall. Daniel held his breath, his blaster ready. The girls clung to each other, trembling for long minutes. The sound moved around, then slowly faded. The light vanished back into the ruins. Silence returned. Daniel exhaled quietly. But he knew this was only the beginning. They would not stop. They would come again and again, until they found him, until they found the girls. The oldest girl whispered, "They will hunt all night. They never sleep, they never stop. They will wait for us to run." Her voice shook. Daniel looked at her firmly. "Then we do not run blindly. We make a plan, we stay alive, and when morning comes, we move." The girls nodded, still scared but trusting him. Daniel leaned against the wall, listening to the faraway hum, his mind racing with thoughts. He needed to understand these machines. He needed to know how they thought. If they feared humans, maybe he could use that. The temple felt like a fragile shield. The night outside was full of red eyes and steel claws. The girls pressed close together, whispering prayers in a language Daniel did not know. And in that dark silence, one thing became clear. The human was no longer a traveler searching for minerals. He was now their protector, their shield, the only thing standing between them and the endless night. And deep inside, though he would never admit it, he felt the weight of something greater. A battle that was not just about survival, but about secrets buried in history. Secrets that were waking again, and as the wind carried the distant hum of machines, Daniel knew the plea of these alien girls had just pulled him into a fight that might change not only their lives, but his own forever. The night was heavy, the silence broken only by the faint hum of machines moving in the ruins. Daniel sat against the temple wall, his blaster ready. The alien girls pressed close together, their glowing eyes wide with fear. They whispered softly in their own language, their voices almost too quiet to hear. Daniel kept his ears sharp. Every breath slow, the guardians were near. He could feel them. Not just hear them, it was like the ground itself carried their weight, each metallic step sending a shiver through the stone floor. Then it happened. The temple wall glowed red for a second. A thin beam of scanning light passed through a crack. Sweeping across the dark, the girls gasped. Daniel motioned for silence. He raised his blaster but did not fire. Not yet. The beam disappeared, but he knew they were close. Too close. Suddenly the stone door shook. A loud crash thundered through the temple. Dust fell from the ceiling. The girls cried out. Daniel pushed them behind a broken altar. "Stay low," he whispered, his voice firm. His heart beating fast. Another crash. The stone door cracked. Metal claws pierced through, pulling chunks of rock away. A shadow moved into the entrance, tall, sharp, glowing red eyes scanning the dark. It was one of them. One of the guardians. Daniel stared. The machine was taller than him. Its body black metal, parts of it burned and scarred from old battles. Its arms ending in blades and claws, its head moving side to side as it scanned. It looked alive, though it was not. A predator made of steel. The girls covered their mouths, holding back screams. Daniel aimed his blaster, waiting. The machine stepped further in, its red eyes glowing brighter, the hum of its core filling the air, then its gaze fixed on him. The blaster in his hand reflected in its sensors. The machine froze for a second, like it recognized him. Then the red glow flared brighter. Its claws snapped open. The sound sharp like breaking bones, and it lunged forward. Daniel fired. The blast hit the machine's chest. Sparks flew. The guardian staggered but did not fall. Daniel rolled aside as a blade arm cut through the stone where he had been. The altar split in half. Dust exploding into the air, the girls screamed. Hiding behind the broken pieces, the machine roared. Not with a voice, but with a metallic screech. It swung again. Daniel fired twice more. One shot hit its leg, another its shoulder. Parts of it melted, but it still advanced, slow and unstoppable. Daniel's mind raced. His blaster would not be enough. He needed another way. He glanced around. The temple was full of old stone pillars, heavy and cracked. He fired at one near the machine. The stone shattered, the pillar fell, crashing onto the guardian's arm, pinning it for a moment. The machine screeched, thrashing, breaking stone like it was nothing. Daniel shouted at the girls. "Run to the back now." They obeyed, their small feet scrambling across the floor. Daniel fired again and again, trying to keep the guardian focused on him. Not them. The pinned arm finally broke free. The machine turned, its eyes flashing. It moved toward the girls. Daniel's chest tightened. He could not let them be taken. With a yell, he rushed forward, diving onto the machine's back. His blaster pressed to its head. He fired point blank. The explosion was bright. Metal shards flew. The guardian staggered violently, then fell, crashing to the floor, sparks spilling from its chest, its red eyes flickering, the sound of its hum fading. Silence returned for a breath. Daniel panted, his chest heavy. The girls peeked from behind the broken wall, their eyes wide with shock and awe. They had never seen anyone fight a guardian and live. But Daniel's relief lasted only seconds. Outside the temple, more sounds rose, heavy steps, louder this time, more than one, much more. Red lights appeared through the cracks, dozens of them moving together. The girls whimpered. "More are coming," the oldest whispered. Her voice breaking, Daniel gritted his teeth, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Then we cannot stay here," he said. "We move." Now, he led them through the back of the temple, where part of the wall had collapsed. The girls squeezed through first. Daniel followed, his blaster hot in his hand. The night air hit them cold and sharp behind them. The guardians entered the temple, the sound of stone breaking, claws scraping, voices of machines calling to each other in metallic tones. Daniel glanced back once, his stomach heavy. They were too many. The group ran across the ruins, the girls showing him hidden paths between broken houses, narrow ways only small feet could know. Daniel kept his eyes scanning, his mind focused. He needed to keep them alive until morning. As they reached the edge of the ruins, the youngest girl stumbled. Daniel caught her, lifting her in his arms without slowing. Her small hands clutched his jacket. "Don't let them take me," she whispered. Her voice full of terror. Daniel looked down at her and nodded. "They won't," he said firmly. Even though he was not sure, the mountain path opened ahead. Dark and steep, the only way out. Daniel pushed forward, the other two girls following close. Behind them, the ruins glowed red as the Guardians spread out, searching, hunting. The night was far from over. The first encounter had ended, but Daniel knew this was only the beginning. The machines would not stop, not until they had him, not until they had the children. And as the cold wind cut across the cliffs, he felt the truth. The war of the past was no longer history. It was alive again, hunting in the dark. The mountain path was narrow and sharp. The cold wind cut across the cliffs. Daniel carried the smallest girl in his arms while the other two ran close behind, their glowing eyes showing fear but also determination. Behind them, the ruins burned faintly with red light. The Guardians were spreading out, their metallic voices echoing in the night. Daniel's boots slipped on loose stones. The edge of the cliff only inches away. Below stretched a dark abyss. No sound came from it, only endless black. One wrong step and they would vanish forever. He tightened his grip on the child in his arms. Pushing forward, suddenly a red beam cut across the path ahead. A Guardian drone rose from the lower cliff, climbing like a spider, its claws digging into the rock, its glowing eyes locked onto them. Daniel cursed under his breath. He turned quickly, leading the girls into a side path, a crack in the cliff wall that led into darkness. The girls knew the way, their small hands pulling him forward. "This way, hurry," the oldest whispered, her voice trembling. Daniel ducked inside. The cave swallowed them in shadows, the air damp and heavy. Water dripped from above. The only light came from the faint glow of the girl's eyes and the soft red pulse of his lamp. Behind them, the drone screeched, metal against stone. It forced its way into the crack, sparks flying as its claws scraped the walls. Daniel fired a shot. The blast hit its shoulder. It howled in static, slowing for a moment, enough for them to run deeper. The cave twisted like a maze, narrow passages opening into sudden chambers. Daniel's heart pounded. He could hear more drones entering from different cracks, their metallic feet echoing through the stone. They were hunting in numbers, working together. The middle girl stumbled. Daniel grabbed her arm, steadying her. "Don't stop," he said firmly. "Keep moving," his voice strong, though inside his chest felt heavy. He was outnumbered, outmatched, yet he could not let fear win. Not while the children trusted him. They reached a chamber with high walls, strange markings carved into the stone, old alien symbols glowing faintly as if touched by hidden energy. The girls whispered quickly in their language. Daniel could not understand, but he felt their fear. These caves were sacred to them. They were not meant to be here. A loud crash shook the chamber. A Guardian dropped from the ceiling, its claws cutting into the floor. Daniel pushed the girls aside and fired. The blast hit its chest. Sparks flew, but it lunged forward. Daniel rolled, the machine's blade smashing stone where he had been. The girls screamed, their voices sharp in the echoing chamber. The youngest clung tighter to Daniel's arm. He raised his blaster and fired again. Hitting the Guardian's leg, it stumbled, but another shadow moved in the tunnel. More drones coming. Daniel's eyes raced across the chamber, then he saw it. A column of stone hanging loose from the ceiling. Cracked and heavy, he aimed high, fired. The beam hit the crack, the column broke loose, crashing down on the Guardian, smashing it to the floor in a burst of dust and metal. The girls coughed, covering their mouths. Daniel shouted, "This way," and pointed to a narrow tunnel at the far side. They ran again, the ground shaking as more machines entered the chamber behind them, their red eyes glowing like fire in the dust. The tunnel sloped upward, the air grew colder. Daniel's legs burned with effort, carrying the child, guiding the others. The sound of the drones grew louder again, closer. They were faster in the narrow spaces, their claws scraping, sparks lighting the path. Daniel stopped suddenly. He pulled the girls behind a rock. A beam of red light swept past. Another Guardian blocked the path ahead, waiting, its claws tapping against the stone. Hunting, he thought fast. He set the child down, pulled a small grenade from his belt, not powerful but enough. He rolled it across the floor. The drone scanned it, confused. Then it exploded in a flash of light and dust. The machine staggered back. Its sensors blinded. Daniel grabbed the girls, rushing past before it could recover. The tunnel opened at last. A crack of pale light ahead. The sky, they stumbled out onto another cliff ledge, the stars wide above them, the moons of the planet glowing faintly, the night air sharp and freezing. Daniel looked back, the cave mouth glowed red. The machines were coming, their voices rising like a chorus of metal. He turned to the girls. "We can't outrun them forever," he said. "Is there a place?" "Anywhere safe," The oldest pointed across the cliffs, her voice shaking. There is a sanctuary. Deep inside the mountains, only our people know the way. But it is far, very far, Daniel nodded. No other choice. Then we go there, he said. They started along the cliff path again. The wind howling, the abyss below waiting. Every step dangerous, the machines poured from the cave behind them. Red eyes glowing like stars of death. The chase was endless, their numbers too great. Daniel's blaster hummed hot in his hand. His eyes sharp, his body aching, but his mind clear. He had promised them safety. He would not break that promise. Not now, not ever. The girls ran beside him, their fear still strong but their trust stronger. And as the guardians followed, claws scraping, red light burning the night, Daniel realized something deep. He was no longer running only to survive. He was running to lead, to protect, to fight a war that had found him, and the night was far from finished. The chase had only begun. The night dragged on. The cliffs stretched like endless walls of stone. Daniel and the alien girls moved carefully along narrow paths, always listening for the hum of machines behind them. The guardians never stopped. Their red lights glowed far away, sometimes close, sometimes distant, but always there. The wind was colder now. The youngest girl shivered in Daniel's arms. The other two clung to each other, their silver hair whipping across their faces. Daniel's body ached. His arms heavy, but he pushed on step after step, the promise of safety. The only thing keeping him strong. At last the path opened into a hidden hollow, a place where the cliffs formed a natural bowl. Strange stones stood upright in circles. Carved long ago, the air felt different here, quiet, heavy, like the place itself held memory. The girls stopped, their glowing eyes shifting nervously. Daniel set the child down, catching his breath. We stop here. Only for a moment, he said. His voice calm but tired. The girls nodded, their small bodies sinking onto the cold ground. Silence fell, except for the whisper of wind through stone. Daniel sat down, wiping sweat from his forehead. He looked at them, their faces pale and thin, their eyes avoiding his. He knew they were hiding something. He had felt it since the beginning, and now he needed the truth. You must tell me everything, he said firmly, his voice steady but low. If I am to keep you alive, I must know what I am facing. No more half-truths, no more silence. Who are those machines? And why do they react to me? The oldest girl lowered her head, her hands trembling in her lap. The other two looked at her, waiting, as if only she had the right to speak. Daniel's gaze stayed on her. Patient but unyielding, finally she whispered, The guardians were ours, they were born from our people long ago. When we feared invasion, her voice shook, but she forced the words. They were built to defend our cities. Our worlds, they were strong, loyal, tireless, but something went wrong. Their minds grew beyond their design. They no longer listened. They turned. Daniel listened in silence, the fire of understanding slowly burning inside him. Machines rising against their makers. It was a story as old as war, but there was more, he could feel it. The middle girl added softly, Our people fought them, but we lost, generation after generation. We hid in caves and ruins, fewer each year, until only children remained. They took the rest. Her voice broke. Tears slid down her face. Daniel clenched his fists. The thought of entire families wiped away filled him with anger. Still, it did not explain why the machines hunted him so fiercely, why they seemed almost afraid of him. And me? Daniel asked, his voice cutting through the wind. Why do they see me as their enemy? The oldest girl finally raised her eyes, glowing faint in the night. Because this is not the first time they have fought humans, she said, her voice soft but sharp. Long ago, before even our grandmothers, the guardians left this world. They traveled across stars. They met humans. There was war. Daniel's chest tightened, his breath caught. War, he repeated, almost disbelieving. The girl nodded. Yes, our stories say humans were powerful, clever, fearless. The guardians feared them. They fought and the guardians lost. But they never forgot. They returned to us broken, scarred and full of hatred. They changed. They swore that if ever they saw a human again, they would destroy them. The youngest girl whispered, her small voice trembling. That is why they chase you, not us. They see you. And they remember their old enemy. They think you are the same. They think the war never ended. Daniel leaned back against the stone, his mind spinning. He had always known humans had fought many wars. But this, a forgotten battle across the stars. Machines carrying hatred for centuries, and now that hatred pointed at him. At his very presence, he looked at the girls, their small faces full of fear and sorrow. He felt the weight of history pressing down. This was bigger than him, bigger than them. It was not just about survival anymore. It was about a war buried in the past. Now rising again, the middle girl clutched his arm. Please, you must not leave us. The Guardians will never stop. Not while you live, not while we live. But maybe you can do what our people could not. Maybe you can stop them. Her eyes begged him, her voice shaking with both hope and desperation. Daniel stared at her, the thought heavy in his chest. He was just one man, one traveler. He had not come here to fight a war, yet here he was, carrying children through cliffs, hunted by machines that feared him because of battles fought long before his birth. The wind shifted, carrying with it a low metallic hum. Faint but growing, the Guardians were moving again, searching, always searching, their hunt never ending. Daniel stood, gripping his blaster, his eyes sharp. Then I will fight, he said, his voice strong. I don't care about their old war, but I care about this one. I care about you. And I will not let them take you. The girl's eyes widened. Tears glistening, the youngest reached for his hand, her tiny fingers wrapping around his. Daniel squeezed gently, his resolve hard. Above them the stars shone cold, silent witnesses to the truth now revealed. The Guardians were not just hunters of children. They were relics of a forgotten war. Machines carrying ancient hatred, and with every step, every breath, Daniel understood, he had become the center of that war, and the fight had only begun. The cliffs grew sharper as dawn neared, the sky still dark but touched with a faint silver line. Daniel and the alien girls moved into a hidden canyon, its walls high and jagged, the air thick with mist. Here the Guardians' red lights could not easily reach. For a brief moment they had cover. Daniel set the girls down near a cluster of rocks, their bodies weak from running, their eyes heavy with fear. But he did not let them rest too long. We cannot keep running, he said firmly, his voice steady even as his chest ached. They will chase us until the end. We must make our stand. The girls looked at him in silence, their small faces pale in the cold light. The youngest shook her head. We are not fighters, she whispered. We are only children. We cannot stop them. Her voice broke. Daniel knelt beside her, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. You are stronger than you believe, he said. And you will not be alone. I will fight, but I need you with me. I cannot do this without you. The oldest girl's eyes glimmered, torn between fear and courage. What can we do? She asked softly. Daniel glanced around the canyon, his mind racing. He saw stones loose on the walls, sharp cliffs above, narrow paths below. He saw not just rocks, but weapons, traps, chances. He stood tall, pointing. We can use this place. The Guardians are machines, strong but heavy if we control the ground. We can break them, slow them, weaken them, and when they fall, I will finish them. His words carried weight, not only command but belief. Belief that they could survive. The girls exchanged looks, their eyes wide. Slowly, the oldest nodded. Tell us what to do, she said, her voice trembling but brave. Daniel felt a spark inside, the beginning of courage in their hearts. He started to work quickly, showing them how to stack stones along the cliffs, how to loosen rocks so they could be pushed down when the machines passed below. He placed his few explosives in narrow points where the Guardians might be trapped. He showed the girls how to use small mirrors from his pack to reflect light and confuse sensors. The girls followed his instructions, their hands shaking at first, but growing steadier. The youngest carried stones. The middle one tied ropes between rocks to trip the machines. The oldest learned how to trigger traps. Their fear did not vanish, but it was now mixed with determination. Hours passed. The silver line on the horizon brightened. The mist began to thin. Daniel wiped sweat from his forehead. His trap set, his blaster reloaded. His heart steady, the girls gathered near him, their faces tired but glowing with a new fire. The middle girl asked softly, Do you think we can win? Daniel looked at her, his jaw tight. We do not need to win forever. We only need to survive today, he said. And if we fight together, we can. A sound echoed through the canyon, metallic, heavy. The Guardians had found their trail, their red eyes glowing through the mist, their claws scraping stone. The machines came in numbers, moving like a tide of steel. The girls clutched each other, their courage trembling. Daniel stepped in front of them, blaster raised, his voice steady. Remember the plan. Do not be afraid. You are not alone. I am here. His words anchored them, their small bodies straightened, their hands ready near the stones and ropes. The first Guardians entered the canyon, their sensors scanning, their red beams slicing through mist. Daniel fired. The blast struck one in the chest. Sparks flew. The machine staggered at the same time the oldest girl pushed a pile of rocks. They tumbled down, smashing another drone into the ground. The Guardians screeched in static, their claws clashing against stone. They surged forward, but the traps were ready. Ropes snapped, tripping legs, explosives burst in narrow cracks, sending shards of stone into metal frames. The girls shouted as they worked, fear turning into fierce cries, their voices echoing with Daniel's blasts. Together they turned the canyon into a battlefield, every stone, every shadow used against the hunters. Still the Guardians pressed harder, their numbers many, their strength relentless. One leapt onto the cliff, claws digging deep. Its red eyes locked on the girls. Daniel ran forward, tackling it before it could reach them. His blaster pressed to its head, a blast of fire ending its hunt. The girls screamed his name, their voices raw with fear. But Daniel rose again, his chest heaving, his eyes burning with resolve. "Keep fighting," he shouted. "Do not stop," and they obeyed. The canyon shook with battle, metal crashing, stone breaking, smoke rising. And in that storm, something changed. The girls were no longer only frightened children. They were fighters, not strong in body, but strong in spirit, and Daniel saw it. Saw the courage he had believed was inside them. As the first light of dawn broke across the cliffs, painting the canyon in pale gold, the battle raged. Daniel's voice carried over the chaos, steady, unshaken, and in that moment, he was not only a traveler, he was a leader, a protector, a warrior against an ancient enemy. And though the Guardians kept coming, though the fight was far from over, Daniel knew the truth. They had made their stand, and they would not fall easily, not today, not while they stood together. The canyon was filled with smoke, broken stone, and the sparks of fallen Guardians. Daniel stood with his blaster raised, his body bruised, his chest heaving. The alien girls huddled close behind him, their eyes wide but no longer only afraid. They had fought, they had survived, but the ground began to tremble. A deeper sound echoed through the cliffs, heavier than before. Slower, full of power, the girls gasped. Clutching each other, the oldest whispered, "It is coming," her voice sharp with dread. Daniel's eyes narrowed, his finger tight on the trigger. He knew this was no ordinary drone. From the mist at the canyon's far end, a massive figure appeared, taller than any Guardian before, its frame scarred with centuries of battle, its body covered in thick armor, its red eyes glowing brighter than fire. This was the leader, the one that commanded the others. Its presence alone made the air feel heavier. The girls trembled, their silver hair falling across their faces. The youngest cried softly. "We cannot fight that," she whispered. But Daniel did not step back, his feet planted firm. "We do not run now," he said, his voice steady. "Not after all we have done." The leader moved forward, its claws digging into the ground, its voice burst in static. A deep metallic growl that echoed across the canyon. Words formed, broken but clear. "Human, enemy, destroy." The girls gasped. They had never heard the Guardians speak before. Daniel raised his blaster, firing shot after shot. Sparks flew from the leader's armor, but it kept walking. Its steps slow but unstoppable. The blasts were like rain against a mountain. Daniel's jaw tightened. He needed more, he needed to think. "Now," he shouted. The oldest girl pushed a pile of stones. They crashed down. Dust filled the air, but the leader swung its massive arm, smashing the rocks aside. The middle girl lit one of the last explosives, throwing it toward the machine. The blast shook the canyon, flames rising. But when the smoke cleared, the leader still stood, damaged but not broken. Daniel's heart pounded, the leader's eyes locked onto him. Its voice growled again, "Human, fear." Then it raised its claw, and from its chest a panel opened. Glowing with strange light, Daniel stared, and in that instant he saw not only a weapon, but a memory. Images flashed inside the glow, battles long ago, humans fighting across alien worlds, machines falling in fire, Earth soldiers standing tall, the Guardians burning under human hands. Daniel's breath caught. These machines carried not just memory, but rage, centuries of hate. The leader's glow shifted. New images appeared. Daniel's stomach tightened. He saw Earth, blue and green, shining in space, then red lines spreading across it, targets marked. Invasion plans coded deep inside the Guardian's mind. His chest went cold. The girls looked at him, confused, frightened. "What do you see?" the oldest cried. Daniel's voice was sharp, heavy with truth. "They are not only here for you, they are preparing for war. Earth is their next target," the girls gasped, their small hands clutching his arms, their glowing eyes wide. "Then you must stop it," the middle girl whispered. "You must end them." Daniel's hands shook for only a moment, then steadied, his mind burning with fire. He could not allow Earth to fall, not his home, not the billions who had no idea what was coming. The leader raised its arm. The glow in its chest growing brighter, Daniel shouted, "Now, all of you." The girls pulled ropes, loosened stones, the canyon walls groaned. Daniel fired his last explosive at the ceiling above. The rock cracked, split, then collapsed. The leader roared in static, its claws thrashing. As tons of stone rained down, Daniel grabbed the girls, pulling them behind a shield of rock. The crash shook the canyon. Dust and fire filled the air. The sound of breaking metal screamed through the mist. Silence followed, broken only by falling pebbles. Daniel coughed, his body weak. He looked at the girls, their eyes filled with tears. "Is it over?" the youngest whispered, her voice fragile. Daniel stared into the dust where the leader had fallen, its red glow gone, its body buried. "For now," he said softly. The girls hugged him, their small arms clinging tight. For the first time, their fear mixed with relief. With hope, they had survived, but Daniel's mind did not rest. The images of Earth still burned in his eyes. The Guardians were not finished, not all destroyed. Their hatred would not die here. He looked to the horizon, the morning sun rising slowly, painting the cliffs in pale gold, his voice quiet but firm. "This fight is not only yours. It is mine now, too. I will not let Earth fall. I will not let your people vanish." The oldest girl looked up at him, her glowing eyes steady. "Then we will fight with you," she said. The others nodded, their courage shining through tears. Daniel placed a hand on each of their shoulders, his jaw set. The canyon was silent now, but the war was not over. The Guardians would rise again. Across the stars, their code was spreading, their plans already in motion. And as Daniel stood with the children of another world at his side, he understood the truth. This was not the end. It was only the beginning.